Hey, what's up guys? My name is Adam and welcome to the video. Today, I want to talk about how to make that little bit of extra dough on top of your main income stream, which might even turn into your main income stream. We're going to talk about side hustles. Oftentimes, people want or need a little bit of extra cash on the side to achieve their desires. This is especially relevant now given the state of the world. Pretty sure YouTube doesn't like when I mention the C word, but you probably know what I'm talking about. No, not that C word. Whatever situation you're in, I love the idea of a side hustle. Who doesn't like an extra bit of cash? I'm going to show you 5 side hustles that are doing just fine, even in these tough times. They are in no particular order, and all of these may not work for everyone. You will have to factor in the pros with the cons that I share with you and make the decision for yourself. But before we begin, don't forget to gently tap the like and subscribe button down below. Petting the YouTube algorithm is very good for its overall health and happiness. First up, I want to talk about Instacart. This has no relation to Instagram. Completely different. It is a grocery delivery service that basically lets you pay someone else to do your grocery shopping for you. Think of it like Uber Eats, DoorDash, or Postmates Essentials, but for full-on grocery haul. Essentially what you do is wait for an order on the app to come in, drive to the store, find an item on the list, scan the barcode in the app, then rinse and repeat for the rest of the list. If the item is out of stock, you can scan a close replacement and get the customer's approval or have it removed from their list. This reduces the total bill, which also reduces any tips you receive, so it really incentivizes you to find everything on their list. When you're all done, you can check out with the Instacart provided credit card, then drive to the customer's house to deliver their groceries. Normally, you can greet people at the door when you go to drop off their groceries, but given current times, some people probably aren't going to be comfortable with that. So you generally just leave the groceries on the doorstep, ring the doorbell, and walk away. Go figure, ding dong ditch is actually a thoughtful thing to do now. All right, so here are the pros. There's no startup costs besides transportation. They provide a virtual card for you at checkout, so you don't even need to front any money. There's no risk because again, Instacart fronts everything. And applying is fairly quick and easy. So here are the cons. First off, you're gonna need your own form of transportation like I mentioned earlier. If you don't have a car, you can always look for used ones at a place like CarMax, or you can lease one for a couple $100 a month. Your pay is dependent on the amount of orders that you get, which can vary from day to day. Some days you may get no orders, and then some days you may get every single order. On the days with no orders, you won't make any money, unfortunately. But on the days you're very busy, you can be handsomely rewarded. And lastly, this is non-passive, non-scalable income. This means that your pay is only a result of the amount of hours that you are working, which again, if there's no work, you can't put any time in. I will talk more about scalable income in the next section. So it is possible to actually earn upwards of $50, maybe even more per hour, depending on where you live. This is roughly equivalent to a 6-figure salary, but this might not be sustainable for an entire year. The average is more like $20 to $30 an hour, which is still pretty solid, all things considered. More populated areas pay more and have more orders, and vice versa. Less populated areas have lower pay and less orders. So this is something to consider before jumping in. So to sum it up, Instacart is absolutely a great side hustle right now. Nobody wants to leave their house. People will pay a premium to get someone to leave their house for them. Instacart has a relatively low barrier to entry compared to other opportunities. It pays you a solid amount per hour, but it is also entirely dependent on the amount of hours that you work. Next up, we have e-commerce. There's a really popular method of e-commerce called drop shipping, which you may have heard of. This has the lowest barrier to entry of any other e-commerce method. If you don't know what drop shipping is, in a nutshell, it's a business model where a customer will buy a product from you for a markup, let's say $100. Then you buy it directly from the supplier who will ship it to that customer for, let's say, $50, and you keep the extra $50 as profit. You don't ever have to touch the product or hold inventory, which minimizes the risk and upfront cost. Now, before you go and say,
"He's talking about drop shipping on YouTube? I bet he's trying to sell me a course." Dislike, unsub.
I actually don't have a course. All the information you need is available for free on YouTube or is learned through trial and error, like most other things in life. So please step away from the dislike button. Yeah, there you go. A little bit further. Oh, thank you so much. That's so nice of you. There's a lot more that goes into dropshipping and e-commerce as a whole, like product research and sourcing, marketing, and order fulfillment. So it is not as easy as it sounds. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You are building a business after all. This is personally what I do on a smaller scale compared to others in the e-commerce industry. You can run businesses that can bring in anywhere from a couple hundred to tens of thousands of dollars a month in profit, and you can do it from anywhere with an internet connection. I really like it because once you start up a store, maintenance isn't too much of a time commitment. It almost becomes a passive income, with the only work required being order fulfillment, customer service, and continuous sales funnel improvements like tweaking product descriptions and stuff. Additionally, it is extremely scalable given the nature of the internet and social media marketing. So at the beginning of this video, you heard me mention scalable income. This is income that is based off the results that you get and not strictly based off of the amount of time that you put into it. Think of a McDonald's employee versus a real estate agent. As a McDonald's employee, you get paid a set amount based on the amount of hours that you work. You don't make any more money based on the amount of burgers that you sell or how well you prepared those burgers. Income is simply a function of your time. However, as a real estate, you do get paid more based on the results that you bring in. So in this case, you get paid more based on the value of the property sold. So your income is a function of both the time that you put into it and the results that you produce. So with e-commerce, you are able to scale your online ads to reach hundreds and thousands, even millions of people with the click of a button. E-commerce is extremely profitable right now, surprisingly and unsurprisingly, given the state of the world. It's surprising because you think people would be hoarding their money in the face of potential furloughs, layoffs, or salary reduction. But it's also unsurprising given that people are stuck at home and they're bored. They're not spending any money anywhere else, so they turn to online shopping. Shopify even reported seeing Black Friday, Cyber Monday levels of traffic, which is generally lasts a week, for the last 3 months. Despite all those positives, there are actually quite a few negatives. While physical location flexibility is pretty nice, it does have its drawbacks. Dealing with things like product sourcing, product verification, and fulfillment can be an absolute headache. Most of your products will be coming from outside of the US, so the language barrier can cause a lot of frustration. Additionally, because they're coming from outside the US, especially at a time like now, shipping times are extremely inconsistent and very delayed, especially given the state of the world right now. But the biggest negative in my eyes is the startup investment, both in time and money. There is a pretty steep learning curve associated with product research and marketing that can take some people months and even years to understand. Also, the money required to start is at least a couple hundred to even a couple thousand. The average person could lose a lot of money before they start to learn the ropes and see some profit. I know I did. I lost a lot of money at first. So to sum it up, e-commerce and dropshipping is a great way to create a scalable and relatively passive income. It also gives you exposure to the entrepreneurial world, which is another reason why I personally chose to do it. However, it has a pretty high barrier to entry in the amount of time that it takes to learn the skills, and also in the amount of money needed to start it up. Moving on, we have everybody's favorite service to pay for to memes. We have Fiverr, and it's generally a little bit more professional competitor, Upwork. Look at this shit. Look at all these. There's pages of this. I imagine them kind of like Tinder versus Match.com. Tinder's there if you need something done quick and dirty, but generally if you want a longer lasting relationship, you go with Match.com. If you've never heard of these services before, basically it's a marketplace for freelancers to find work. What you do is you search for a service, sometimes called a gig, that you want to hire someone to do. When you find a listing that you like, you pay the website while the service is completed. Then when it's done, you usually go through like a review process and then finish the transaction. I really like this because it allows you to turn a passion or relevant experience into an additional income stream. For example, if you really like graphic design or front-end web development, you can put up a listing and set your own service, price, and timeline. Even if it's just a hobby that you want to turn into a full-time job, you can get relevant experience to put on a resume, which will help you land you that job. These are generally services that are digital, so all you need is an internet connection and whatever tools or software you need to perform that service. You have the freedom to work from wherever you want. The main downside is that you do need a skill that someone will pay money for, such as code development, graphic design, or marketing. But honestly, you'd be pretty surprised what services you'll find, especially on Fiverr. Like, look at this guy. He's got a listing where he just talks in a Donald Duck voice, and you pay him $5 for each one. That is genius. With a little creativity, you just might come up with something lucrative. Next up, we have one that I'd guess not a lot of people have heard about, In fact, I only found out about this in the last year, and that is transcription services. This process is pretty much what it sounds like. You get paid to transcribe audio files into text files, similar to the clerks you see always typing away in the courtrooms on TV.
Ms. Beavers, if you please.
Twitter poll. On a scale of 98 to 100, how annoying is Leslie Knope? Because you know it ain't less than 98. All my number sign True Blood fans know what's up.
They'll generally pay you $10 to $20 an hour, which isn't bad all things considered. This can get well above minimum wage. The pay is tiered based on how many transcription hours you have done for them. So when you start, you'll start at the lowest tier with the lowest base pay, and they will bump you up to the next tier after a certain amount of transcription hours are met, and the cycle will continue until you make your way to the top. So for the pros, similar to the other side hustles mentioned before, the startup costs are very, very minimal. All you need is an internet connection, so you have the freedom to work from wherever you want besides that. You don't even need to leave your own home. There is even some hardware, like this transcription foot pedal, that can make you faster and more efficient, thus earning more money. Now for the cons. You do have to understand fluent or near fluent English, which if you're watching this, there's a good chance you already do. Some transcription companies also require you to pass a course, which is basically just a test to see if your English is up to snuff, and they also teach you how to do transcription for that company. It is also probably not the most interesting work for a lot of people, unless you get some really juicy conversations to listen in on. It takes a decent amount of time to ramp up to those higher pay grades. Also, like I mentioned earlier, this is not scalable income, so your pay is a direct result of how much time you put in. In fact, one of the transcription services tries to get ahead of this question and puts it pretty blatantly on their FAQ page that you will not get rich doing this. But at the end of the day, it's still a decent way to make money with little to no startup costs. And you also don't have to leave the comfort of your own home. Finally, the last side hustle I will recommend is buying and owning real estate. I know several people who use the income from their job to buy and rent out real estate that turn into a very nice source of passive income. Real estate will always be a great investment since, barring some Handmaid's Tale thing from going on, the human population will always be increasing, creating more demand for places to live, which drives the prices up. Unlike depreciating assets such as a car that loses half of its value as soon as you drive off the lot, real estate in desirable areas is almost always an appreciating asset, meaning that the price always goes up. Like I mentioned before, it can also generate passive income through rentals and even let you live in it for free with house hacking. This is where you buy a multi-unit or multi-room property, rent out all the extra units or rooms, and oftentimes that rent can pay for the cost of the mortgage itself, allowing you to live there for free. Stephan, a popular YouTuber and real estate agent, does this himself and has quite a few videos on his channel about it. If you are curious, I highly suggest checking him out if you don't already know who he is. When paying a mortgage, you want to think of it in terms of opportunity cost. Compared to renting, the money that you're paying in rent just gets thrown out. It disappears from your possession. If you're paying a mortgage, that money at least is going to something that you will eventually own. But don't forget, owning a house is not cheap. There are many costs like mortgage, property tax, and regular maintenance that will add up quickly over time. There's a nice calculator on smartasset.com, which I will link down below, which can help you decide which one is better for you. While there is massive upside, there's quite a bit of considerations as well. You do need a pretty sizable chunk of change for not only the down payment, but also future mortgage payments, or even if you just want to buy it outright. The entire process is also very long, from finding initial opportunities, attending open houses and property inspections, bidding against competitors, securing a mortgage through a bank, doing renovations and improvements, and finally renting it out. Buying, owning, and selling real estate can be a very daunting process, and it's not for everyone, but the rewards can be very well worth it. So to wrap things up, the 5 side hustles that I recommended in this video are Instacart, e-commerce, freelancing, transcription services, and real estate. Again, not all of these will work for everyone, but I'm sure you can find at least one of these things to do if you want to create an extra stream of income. So with that, I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.